Welcome to Brewsers, a podcast about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. I'm your host, Roddy John, and today we talk to Tony Kozina. We talk all about his start in the Pacific Northwest, training in New Zealand with Bad Luck Fale, and so much more. That's right, this man was training other pro wrestlers along the way and alongside Bad Luck Fale in New Zealand, and we get so much into that story, and I can't wait for it. But first, make sure to sign up for our newsletter. It comes out twice a week. You get even more information about our guests. You get fun facts, and you get to find out what's happening with your favorite podcast, all about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. So without further ado, here is Tony Kozina. I would like to welcome to the show Tony Kozina. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Real good. How are you, John?
I'm doing well. So for those listening, kind of paint us a word picture. Where are you at? What's going on around you?
Well, I have returned to my hometown, Portland, Oregon.
There you go.
And just kind of getting settled here. I actually did a seminar last night in Hillsborough at the Oregon Pro Wrestling School, which is run and owned by Ricky Gibson. And
Oh, wow.
man, I had no idea it was such a good facility there.
How did so how long have you been back in the States now?
Oh, geez. Not quite a month. It's been about 3 weeks. Yeah. And it's an adjustment.
Well, I mean, we'll get to it at some point, but let's jump into it now because you're back in America. You've been in New Zealand. You were the head trainer at Bad Luck Fale's wrestling academy down in New Zealand. How did you get to New Zealand first? And I want to get into the culture and everything of New Zealand because obviously COVID has some bit to do with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Fale and I go back to when he was a young lion in New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time when he was a young lion going through the system, Davey Richards, who I, trained with, traveled with, lived with, he was working New Japan as well. And I think that the senpais there were impressed at how dedicated he was and how hard he trained in the gym, and said, can we send a young boy to you in St. Louis? And he said, yeah. And then immediately he messaged me and said, do you want to train this guy? And maybe you can get your foot in the door. So of course I'm always down to train, and it's another somebody to help, and it's someone for us to wrestle with.
Yeah.
So yeah, Foley stayed with us for a year and went back. And of course, as soon as he went back, you know what happened. He went with Prince Devitt,
Yeah.
and started the Bullet Club, and the rest is history.
He was always one of my favorites to watch. I mean, still is in New Japan because he's just so big, and it's like working around him is always fun to see how everybody kind of does it. And then obviously the Japanese people love him because he is that giant over the top monster person, and it's just insane.
Well, yeah, and he's one of the few big guys that still works like a big guy.
Yeah.
He's not trying to do, and like, what's the point of being big if you're going to do the things that I can do?
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, he's had a hell of a career.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's just expanding with the dojo and with the New Japan Tamashi. And this is just the very start of what's going to be a big, beautiful expansion for New Japan.
So, I mean, we kind of touched on it. How did you get over to New Zealand in general?
Well, I got to know him, and I showed him all the psychology and the things and the little tricks that I've learned through the years, and went back. He did, and became a star, and just said, I'll repay you back one day. And man, just go be great. And then we stayed in touch, like I said, and he contacted me and said, hey, you want to come over for 3 months? I'm starting a dojo. And I thought, man, 3 months. Okay, sweet. And I was there a month, and him and the co-owner, Mark Tui, took me out to lunch and said, we'd like to make this permanent. You do it the right way. You do it, Japan would be happy with how you do it. And we'll just teach you the way that, the Japanese system. And I said, let's go. It was a great chance for me to get out of the US.
Right.
So, and I mean, I was going back and forth, and we were talking about getting a work visa, and then COVID hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, they locked down the borders, and I had no problem. I didn't want to be in the States for this shit show anyway. And so, 4.5 years. And so,
Wow.
oh, it was brilliant.
So I don't, at this point, obviously most people don't even like talking about COVID anymore, but I haven't talked to anybody that was in New Zealand while it was happening. And obviously across the world, it seemed like New Zealand was doing it the best of everybody. So what was it like being in New Zealand? I mean, obviously the culture shock I imagine it was there as well, because you're living on an island as opposed to living in the Pacific Northwest, and then obviously the food and the culture. So I mean, kind of walk us through all of that, really.
Dude, I was trapped in paradise, just like the movie, man. You couldn't, you, I had told everybody, friends, family, oh, how are you doing? Whatever. And I'm like, I'm a millionaire without the $1 million. It's like,
Right.
I've got the lifestyle. You can keep all the money. I couldn't care less. Um, you know what? It was business as usual for us. A
Right.
lot of the Americans and overseas people freaked out, and rightfully so. Nobody had any idea
Of
what
course.
this was, except for the people that know it all,
Right.
So, but and they panicked and went home. But a few people stayed, and we just kept on grooving.
Right.
And it was tough because we couldn't get overseas students for a few years.
Yeah.
Um, but the people that stayed, we just kept on moving and grooving and training. And so from that aspect, we did have the COVID finally got in, but it was after about a year.
Yeah.
And I think we are locked down. And by lockdown, it's like, hey, we can't go out to lunch and sit outside and boo-hoo, first world problems. Can't go out and have a beer. We have to buy the beer at the store and just sit outside on the deck.
Yeah.
That's tough stuff. Um, but nothing changed for us because we really didn't go crazy out on the town anyway.
Right.
You could still go to the beach. We still barbecue. We
Hmm.
did everything. We still training. We did everything that we always did. So it was just tough from a financial standpoint because we couldn't have anybody come in.
Right. Now, when it comes to the culture of New Zealand, and obviously, like you just said, you were trapped in paradise. What is, for those who've never been there or it's on their bucket list of places to go, talk to us about New Zealand. How amazing is it?
Man, yeah,
What is the culture like? What is obviously the surf like?
I encourage everybody to move there. Yeah, that's it. I'll tell you this: I'm going to do everything I can to end up there.
Okay, nice.
Um, it's just too. It may be different if I was there and struggling and all that, and my circumstances were certainly played a part in things because I was just kind of taken care of there. My housing and a vehicle and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So I had it really lucky, but the people, it's very laid back like Canada, but even more so because you're basically at the beach.
Yeah, you're not freezing. You're
Yeah.
just walking around in shorts and flip flops. Yeah.
Auckland, because where are you in the States? You're Central Time. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm DFW, Texas, North Texas
Oh
area.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it might get 90 degrees in the summer, and it's more humid than Portland is, but
Right.
nowhere near the humidity. Like I lived in St. Louis for 10 years,
Oh
and I've
yeah.
lived in Charlotte, and it's just like a big, hot, nasty blanket over you. So it's nowhere near that, but
Right.
it's more humid than Portland. But you might get 90 degrees in the summer, of course, and there you go. You're at the beach and it's good times. In the winter, in Auckland, you might have 2 weeks where when you get up in the morning, there's frost on your windshield. So what?
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
That's not bad at all.
Um, no, dude, it's tremendous. Um, and I don't know if you've ever been out to the Northwest, but I always
Yeah.
said Auckland's a perfect combination of Portland and Seattle
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've
because
been.
the way that especially Auckland.
Hmm.
If you looked at the geography of it, the land all curves in and it comes in and breaks apart like Puget Sound in Seattle.
Right.
So it's almost no matter where you go in Auckland, you're going to find bodies of water everywhere.
There you go.
And a lot of green and a lot of mountains
Yeah.
because Auckland is basically built over 7 or 8 different volcanoes that have popped up through the ages, through the eons.
Jeez.
Um, but um, living where the dojo is in the Polynesian area,
Hmm.
South Auckland, a lot of people thumb their nose at it, but I thought it was brilliant.
Right.
I think it was a dangerous place in the 90s, as I understand it, with the gangs and all that. But that was like a generational thing. The Samoans and the Tongans and the Maori people there, they all fought, the kids, right? You get in
Yeah.
these gangs, but 25, 30 years later, everybody's grown up and their children haven't carried that whole rubbish. And uh, man, the Polynesian culture, your family
Yeah.
and everybody. It's just the way everybody treats everybody. Um, you just walk down the street, and I wasn't used to it at all. I'd take a morning walk with Fale,
Mm.
and I'd get there before the intake started, and we'd take our walk, and he'd give me the rundown of what's happening, who's coming, and all that's going on, and we'd grab a coffee, and people are just walking, waiting for the bus or whatever. Good morning, good morning. If some scraggly looking young people or something. I don't know if they're homeless or what, but sitting outside the bakery, which is like a deli.
Yeah.
He'd come in, can I get you something to eat? Oh, and they're appreciative. Oh, would you mind? No, I got you. And
Right.
it's just a sense of giving that's absent, absolutely absent in the States.
Yeah.
Um, and it blew my mind. It changed my whole way. I had to like, I'm used to walking with just my head down and staying
Yep.
to myself, right?
Yep.
And so I was like, man, I got to try this. And then, of course, fast forward 4 years, and I'm, hey, how are you? Good morning. Just it's
Which I imagine
amazing.
is shocking just for you too. But I imagine once you started doing it and you saw how good it felt to everybody else and not only yourself, you're like, why don't more people do this? Like, why? It's just it is real funny that that is the culture shock of living on like the mainland in America. Because I've heard that's how it is out in Hawaii as well. Like most of these island countries, they're just that way because, like you said, I mean, they're living in paradise for the most part, and everyone's just there because you chose to be there.
Yeah. And I don't, it's just a special place and really loving people. And it didn't matter if you're well dressed or you looked like you were a teenage punk. Everybody just agreed, talk to you. They were interested. Oh, you got an accent. They'll talk to me.
Oh,
I was going to the what do you call the urgent care because I didn't know where to go. I was like, oh, I need to get some medicine real quick. And this kid that's got tattoos, he's a Polynesian kid. He got the tattoos around the neck,
yeah.
and all that. And he's like, oh, you're not from here. You got an accent. So we just start talking. And he's like, are you used to seeing tattoos like this back home? I was like, oh, of course, in America, everybody tattoos themselves up. And he goes, do I look intimidating? I go, to me, no, because I've been here and I've been around all the islanders here, right? So we were having a little laugh. But I mean, you know, he looked dangerous and all that. Dude, they're sweet, wonderful people.
Oh, that's
I Yeah, that's my experience. Man, just great.
that's awesome. Well, let's go all the way back in
And
time.
the food,
Oh,
come
go.
on.
Yeah. Oh, God, tell me about the food. Yeah. I was very curious because you get
Yeah,
obviously way better seafood. And then I've also heard that the way they do pork is just next level.
you don't, dude. All the beef and everything is grass fed. You don't have to seek it out. Like it's
Right.
all just organic grass fed. At least what I saw. And I'm just like, you know, oh no, man, it's great. Just and they eat. I didn't know. I didn't realize they eat a lot of lamb. That's one of the main meats,
Oh,
and that's good, real
yeah.
good. And I tried so many different